Well, pleasant good morning, sports fans, and welcome to another edition of the PR Man and the Coach talking ball on the Ballfather Podcast presented by Sports Kita. I'm Reggie Roberts, your host, former NFL executive, communications executive. I'm joined by my super cool NFL analyst, head coach Mike Smith, winningest coach in Falcons history. Good morning, Coach.
Hey, good morning, Reggie. Hope you're having a good day.
Man, I am. We're 2 weeks away. 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks away from the draft, or as they used to call it when Pete Rozelle was commissioned, the NFL selection meeting. That it's that time of year where everybody who's talking is lying. Nobody's truth. I mean, seriously, Mike. You're a veteran of this. You go to the league meetings. Everybody's lying there. The combine, everybody's lying there. I mean, we're 2 weeks. There's 2 more weeks of we're going to do this, and there's all these rumors and all this stuff. So we'll get into a little bit of what's true, what's subterfuge, how things are going to shake out. But I want to start with something I saw earlier this week about a guy who's from Louisiana, played at LSU. Devin White, Devin White, linebacker for the Bucs, Mike linebacker for the Bucs. And it's not good, Mike, when your linebacker comes out and says, okay, I want to be traded. What's that about, Mike? And usually that doesn't really end well, does it? It doesn't end well.
Well, Reggie, it's about money. It's about green. It's about the green, right?
He says it's not about the money. He says it's about respect.
Well,
he says it's about respect.
And he feels disrespected because he's not getting the money that he thinks he should be getting. Yeah. Correct? Yeah, no, it is. And it's a ploy that players have used in the past. And usually it gets what they want. He'll probably end up being somewhere else. They could, potentially come back together, but usually when they come out and say, hey, I want to be traded, I don't want to be a part of this organization, you don't want to have someone that is not happy with their compensation on your football team if you can help it. And he's a really good player, so they'll be able to probably get something worth what they feel like would be enough for them to move on. But you don't want them out a guy that's not happy in your locker room. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, my guys who cover that team, I got 3 guys in Tampa who cover that team. One who covers it very, very closely, one who covers it for the newspaper, and one who's like an insider. They all say the same thing about it. Really good player, but not as good as he thinks he is. Specifically, he's not very good in coverage, and they all say that he takes way too many chances and has the ball thrown over his head or goes the wrong way. He's not as good as he thinks he is. That's a problem when you in your mind that you think you're better than you are, and then you're really not, and then you start to think that you should be paid like the quarterbacks are paid, and that's just he needs to understand what his role is.
Yeah, this is the time of the year. This is the negotiation season. There's some other guys. I think we could talk about the running back up in New York. He's not happy with the tag, and so he's not going to be around in the off season. So This is the negotiating season. Hopefully guys will start to feel better about their situations. I know there's a situation brewing in Baltimore that we've been talking about that's had a big change this year. Then I know that we probably need to dive into that. But the Tampa Bay situation, it'll be interesting to see if he's going to be in a Bucs uniform or is there going to be a trade on draft day. Right. Maybe that's where he's coming out and he's wanting to get that out there to see if they can get some draft capital for him, maybe this year, or if not this year, next year and the year after, because he is a good player and he'll bring a good value to the Bucs. We're not just going to give them away.
Let me ask you this question. You and I talk about this all the time. This game, there's two things that are very, very, very apparent in pro football. number one, it's a quarterback-driven league. Is number one, and number two, you don't win without good players. So, with that as a backdrop, if this is one of your guys, you're the head coach. This is one of your guys. He's key to what you do on defense. You like him. He works well in your scheme. Does a head coach ever at all get involved in these kinds of things when a guy says something like that, like maybe behind the scenes, maybe goes to, see the guy offside, go have dinner with him or something? Is this a situation where the head coach, if he really wants to keep the player, inserts himself into a situation to try to resolve this or not?
I think different coaches handle it differently, Reggie. I had a philosophy, and I used to tell every player early in the season about I want them to make as much money as they possibly can, because I'm trying to do the same damn thing,
right,
as a head football coach, and you want them to get as much as they can, and I'm hoping that they do. But there are limitations because we have a salary cap,
right,
and every person's situation is different. And I'm not going to get involved in the negotiation part of it as the head football coach. You guys have your agents, and you're going to talk to the people that are negotiating on the team side. But I'm telling you this, as a coach, I want you to get as much as you can. And I think that's the best way to do it. You can't get in the middle of it as the head football coach.
Okay.
Let your players know that you want them. You're trying to do the same thing for yourself, is that you're trying to make as much money as you possibly can, because it is a short window when you're in the National Football League. Well,
it'll be interesting to watch how this situation works out, because Tampa Bay's it's a big year for the team. It's a big year for the coach. They're gonna have a new quarterback, new coordinator. There's a whole lot of new moving parts, and that the one thing that they've sort of been able to do is have a pretty decent defense, and he's a big part of it. So it'll be worth watching to see how they work the situation out. So we'll keep our eye on that one. Well, as you mentioned earlier, there's a situation taking place in Baltimore where the quarterback, maybe a little less than a month ago, came out and said, he's not happy with what's happening with him. He didn't like the franchise tag, and he wants to be traded as well. So, the team, I think, earlier this week sort of did something to placate him a little bit, in that they went out and signed Odell Beckham Jr., who obviously, 4, 5, 6 years ago was arguably one of the best receivers in football. Okay. But if you're going to look at the facts, let's look at the facts. We look at the facts on the Ballfather Podcast presented by Sports. We're talking facts. Here's a guy who's 31 years old. He's a guy who's had 2 reconstructive ACL surgeries. When he's playing, he's pretty good. He's fast. He can run good routes. People say he's a good teammate, but he's hurt a lot. He's missed a lot of time because he's hurt. Give me your thoughts on that move, Mike, and how do you think that works out with Baltimore?
Well, I think Eric DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome know that he still has value, or they wouldn't be making this move. They're not just going to placate the quarterback by saying we're going to bring this guy in unless he can help you win. And I believe he does have value. I think that they're giving him a lot of, giving him a lot of money, but I think it's kind of an olive branch to Lamar to say, hey, look, we're going to bring wide receivers in here that are going to help us win games. And I know that they have a relationship previously. They haven't played on the same team, obviously, but they have a relationship. And I think that is one of the moves that they are doing this off season, to get Lamar to understand that, hey, we're going to put you in the best position possible to win a championship by bringing in good players. And yes, there are some question marks, but when you're 30 years old and you played in the NFL for 8 or 9 years, you're going to have, you're going to have some injury issues that you're going to be talking about. You're going to miss games. That's just part of it. Yes, he's missed more. He's been on multiple teams. That would be a concern. But every team that he's been on, he's been one of the top receivers, and they've done a good job throwing the football when he's involved. And I think Lamar feels good about that acquisition. and hopefully it is an olive branch to say, hey, come on in, let's go to work. We're going to continue to build around you and try to put the best product on the field that we possibly can.
Let me give you a couple of stats here, Mike, on Odell. Let's see. His productivity, however, has tailed off since recording 1,000-yard seasons in 5 of his first 6 years. He hasn't surpassed 600 yards receiving since 2019. How about this stat? The Ravens have never had a Pro Bowl receiver since they became a franchise in 1996. The next longest drop belongs to the Carolina Panthers, who haven't had a Pro Bowl receiver since Steve Smith Sr. in 2011. It's amazing they've been as good as they've been, and they've not had a Pro Bowl receiver. That's incredible. As good a draft as Ozzie and DeGosse have done, to me that's unfathomable. How have they been winning?
Well, they've done a great job, and they've had some good tight ends. I know when I was there, we had Shannon Sharp and Todd Heath, and both of those guys, by the way, did go to the Pro Bowl. But and they've done it with not subpar receivers, but they haven't done it with the big name receivers. And having Odell Beckham added to their roster is a good thing for their passing game. It really is. If he can stay healthy, he's still a dominant guy. You're going to have to put extra resources when he's healthy to try to stop him as a defensive coach.
Well, Lamar gets criticized for a lot of things. I mean, he takes almost as much grief as the quarterback in Philadelphia did this year that Jalen Hurts, and we sort of defended and he rode all the way to the Super Bowl, and he had one bad play there that might have kept him from winning it. But Lamar gets a lot of criticism and for a lot of things. I'm hoping that the guy goes in there and he's healthy. He can help Lamar, because you know what? Lamar Jackson's a good quarterback. He ain't perfect, but he's a pretty good quarterback, and the Ravens don't have a chance to win without him.
Yeah, well, Reg, he's not just a pretty good quarterback. He's a real good quarterback, or they wouldn't be franchising him and having him on the franchise tag. And I think what they're trying to send the messages is we have made the offer and non-exclusive tag, but what we're doing is we're taking the money that we aren't using for you long term, trying to add guys to help you win now. And I think that's what he wants to do. And does that lead to a long-term contract in Baltimore? We don't know.
Right.
But it may lead for him to have a long-term contract somewhere else. And, really in the NFL, it's year to year, Reg. It really is. It doesn't matter who you are. If the situation is such, it's a year to year thing. Who would have thought Tom Brady ever would have left New England? But he had to leave because of the cap consequences, where they kept pushing money out and out and out and out.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, it'll be interesting to see how that situation. I mean, the wonderful thing about the NFL, especially during the non-playing season, is all these people who are trying to retool, reload, recalibrate their teams, and this is when it gets done. So we'll see how this situation in Baltimore plays out. Speaking of recalibration, in 2 weeks from today, the biggest way you improve your team takes place in Kansas City down in Union Station. They're going to have the draft. I think this next discussion is worth having, because there's just this big discussion, especially with the writers and the media, with regards to in the building. There's two main guys in the building. You got the head coach and you have the general manager. And writers used to ask me all the time, well, Reg, who's got all the power in the building? Is it the head coach? Does he have final say? Or is it the general manager? Does he have all the power? Does he have the final say? I've worked with places where, it's worked both. One place I've worked with a general manager had all the say. And then I've worked a place where it was a sort of a collaboration between the head coach and the general manager. Like, you worked in the league a long time. I mean, and we were in Atlanta. We had a great situation there for a while where we were winning a lot of games. Give me your thought on how it should be, how it works, and which particular system works better. Just specifically, recently, which particular way to do it? What's the best way to do it? Whether it be the head coach should have all the power or the GM should have all the power. Tell me what you think about that topic.
Well, I think that it's a topic that's been talked about way too much. When you are on a team, you have teammates, and that not just talking about players. I'm talking about people within the organization. You've got to be able, the head coach and the general manager have to work in lockstep. And I think people don't understand how close you have to work together. But there has to be someone that has the final say if there is a disagreement. And I'm just going to throw some statistics out to you just so you can kind of see where it looks like it is for the successful teams. If I throw these names out at you, Bill Belichick, does he have final say? Yes, right? Pete Carroll, does he have final say? Yes. Those two guys have been in 11 Super Bowls. Andy Reid, he has final say. Sean Payton, he has final say. Kyle Shanahan, he has final say. When John Gruden was coaching, he had final say. Sean McDermott has final say. Sean McVay has final say. But don't take that as saying that that's a controversy. When you're working as a head coach and a general manager, you're working in lockstep. Thomas Dimitroff and I, we had an agreement. On paper, Thomas had final say, but we made an agreement when we started our journey there in Atlanta that if we couldn't come to a decision that we both agreed on, then we would not take that player. So we would have some scrimmages and you'd have some in-depth conversations. And really, on the general manager side, on the personnel side, there's no way a head coach can coach during the season and do the work that he needs to do and get the information. So he comes into the process after all the legwork has been done throughout the season, where the scouts are going out and visiting colleges, watching tape, grading players. So it's a process that you go through. And more often, if you look at the success rate over the last 10 or 15 years, the head coaches that quote have final say, but really it's the coaches that work well with the rest of their staffs that have success. You can't be dysfunctional. However it's set up, it has to be functional. And that's why I think people get a misconception of it's controversial or they're not seeing it from the same eye. That's not the case. They're working lockstep, hand in hand, to try to make their team better. And as a head coach, you may not understand all the nuances of the salary cap and the decisions that you have to make. Those are very, very complicated documents and commitments that you make. And so you've got to rely on the other people in the organization to help you make the final decision.
Mike, let me ask you this question. Let's kind of get into it just a little bit.
Okay.
There was always a perception that you and Thomas really did it really well together, with a lot of input. We had a bunch of good scouts. We had a really strong personnel department. We had a lot of veteran coaches on the staff, guys who worked in college, guys who worked in the NFL. How much input did you rely on? Did you rely on other people in the building, or maybe get on the phone and use some of your stuff, because you coached in college for a long time as well? How much of that did you went into the process when you were trying to get information about a guy?
Well, Reggie, you're on a fact-finding mission when you're, when you're evaluating players. And we come in as coaches. You come in at the 3 quarters bowl. The scouts have been out. They've got a big jump. They've got all the information, or most of the information on the player, not only just height, weight, background checks, all the things that go on in the decision-making process. When you come in as a coach, when you step into that first draft meeting, once the season is over, you had one during the regular season, on your bye week, we'd always get caught up and get a feel for what was going on. But when you sat in there, everybody, the room was full. And then as we got closer and closer to draft day, more people dropped out of the conversations. We were using their information, but it became a smaller group. It might be just the coordinators with the general manager, assistant general manager, the pro personnel guy, and the college personnel guy. And then as we put the board together, there would only be 2 or 3 of us in the room.
Got it.
And we would have gone through preliminary putting the board together, but when we put that final board together, there was only 2 or 3 of us that were in the room to see how the board was put together as we prepared for draft day. And it is a long, tedious conversations through and through, and you've got to use your touch points. That's the one thing that you've got to do, is you've got to use the information, take it all in, and then make a decision. And what's crazy, Reg, is what's going on right now in the media. How many mock drafts have you seen the last 4 or 5 weeks? 20? Yeah, 20, 40. Well, look, Reg, the guys that are putting out these mock drafts, they can't put the same mock draft out every week, because if they did that, nobody would read them. Right? So that's what you see. There's lots of changes in it, and it leads to lots of conversations. Believe me, in the 32 meeting rooms that these discussions are going on, yes, you're still having some discussions, this guy or that guy, but it's not like it's been going on with the mock drafts. It's funny to watch. If you started 2 weeks ago, there's guys falling, there's guys rising, and that's the fun part about the draft process. And that's where, you got the draft nicks and all the people that think it's the second best day of the year after the Super Bowl is the draft.
Yeah, it's generated a lot of interest, and people are talking about it, and guys are, but let me ask you this: with 2 weeks left in the draft, give our audience, Mike, a little bit of a feel of where teams are right now in those draft rooms across the 32 teams in the league. With 2 weeks to go, where are they? Just give us a feel for what the board looks like, what conversations are taking place with 2 weeks left before draft day.
Well, the draft board is probably 95% set. There may be some information that they're still trying to get, after the combine. There's medical information that they maybe had to have a second opinion, third opinion. Guys that right now, you've got your 30 visits. So
those are going on, right?
They're winding up their visits where they're bringing players on, into the city of the team, and they're coming into the facility and they're sitting down and they're having one last time to have an opportunity to talk with them. Those are the things they're doing, just so they're trying to tweak the board. The other thing that's going on right now, and it'll be the big conversation over the next 10 days, Reg, is the trade situation. There's going to be a lot of movement,
right,
in terms of maybe not before the draft, but during the draft. You're having these conversations is, hey, if our guy's not there, and we might be interested in moving back 5 spots to get our guy if you want to come up and take ours. And all they're trying to do is they're trying to add draft capital, to their chest, so that they can go back out and maybe move or get more picks. And those are the things that are happening right now. And the conversations are very similar from one team to the other. Well, if my guy's not there in the second round, we may be interested in going back. Or or would you be interested in moving it up? Or would you be interested in this player if the guy that we think can replace him will trade a player? So there's so many trades that go on during the draft. Guys want to move up 3 spots, they want to move up 5 spots, and that's what they're discussing right now. I think they pretty much know, where the board is, and there's a lot of conversation about the top 5 guys going on right now in the media, but I'm pretty sure Carolina is going to take a quarterback. I think we're 99.99999% that that's where it's going to be. And they've probably narrowed it down to 2.
Right.
Yeah. And we all know that, and it can be one or the other. And we're going to have a discussion here, I think, about quarterbacks here in just a minute. But that's what's going on now, and there's a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. But really, the clubs are talking with one another, because it'll be probably the most trades, because it just happens, and it continues to happen, and there's more and more every year. You're not going to see people staying in their same spot. They're going to be making moves, whatever they think will help them have a better product and a better team, and allow them to be good in terms of their salary cap, if they've got salary cap issues. So lots of wheeling and dealing going on right now. Lots of phone calls, and still a lot of smoke screens.
There's stuff everywhere. There's you can't. I follow most teams, almost every team on Twitter, and my phone is pinging constantly when there's news, when there's visits. I mean, I know like who's visiting, where today, when stuff, and I get the updates. Just the last thing on this topic with regards to the visits, you bring in your top 30, you bring in like CJ Stroud someplace today. The guy from Florida, Richardson, he's someplace today. Bryce Young someplace today. How much do you glean from those interviews, and how important are those interviews, especially this late in the process, Mike?
Reg, I don't know that you get a whole lot out of at the very end. You really want them to come to your campus and see them in that element. And that's really, to me, is the most, Reg, they have seen 5 or 6 scouts over the last 2 years from all 32 teams. They've been at the combine. They've had pro days. The information is there. They really want to just bring them on campus and bring them on to the facility and sit down and have some one-on-one and see how they've weathered the storm, so to speak, because it's a challenge for these guys. Can you imagine the guys that have, 10 visits, and they're trying to fit them all in, and they're getting asked the same questions. The great thing about having them on your campus and in your facility is they can meet some of the other people that, if they become a member of the team, they can meet the PR guy, because that the PR guy is going to be able to help them through that process of getting involved in the community. There's so many other things outside of football that are there and available through the organization, that these guys are going to get an opportunity to at least see how they interact with the people in the building. Right.
That's interesting. I think it's really interesting stuff, and I think for the average fan doesn't really understand the mechanics of all this that goes on with regards to the conversation set up the draft board. I think it's really, really, really riveting stuff. Well, with the PR man, the coach talking about on the Ballfather Podcast. The next topic is obviously, like we all talk about, it's a quarterback-driven league, and everybody who's watching the draft will be wanting to know, where are the 4 or 5 quarterbacks. Some people are saying there'll be 4 guys that go in the top 10, 15 picks. I've read another place where they said there's maybe 5 guys that might go in the first top 20, 15, 20 picks. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. We mentioned a minute ago in the last segment that you think it's all, 99% sure that the Panthers are going to take a quarterback. It'll be probably 1 or 2 guys. It's going to be either Ohio State's CJ Stroud or Alabama's Bryce Young. Anthony Richardson seems to be working his way up the board. There's some people that like Will Levis. Apparently, he had a really good pro day. Everybody likes him. And then the one guy who I like, and you and I have talked about, the guy who played in Tennessee, Hendon Hooker. I don't know if he goes in the first round, but I think he's going to be a really good quarterback for somebody. I think he's smart and he's big and everybody likes him. Just give me your take on where the quarterbacks go, because they'll get the most attention on draft day wherever they go, or whether they don't get drafted. Give me your take on where you think the quarterbacks go, Mike.
Well, Reg, the draft order it's set. I don't think there's going to be any changes in the top 5. Carolina traded with Chicago to take a quarterback. And I'm pretty sure they know who their guy is, or as you mentioned, they've got it down to 2. They're looking to bring some stability to the organization after the Matt Rule experiment. They brought in, Coach Wright, Super Bowl winning coach, and he's put together super strong staff.
Yeah.
They're going to take one of the 2. They're either going to take C.J. Stroud from Ohio State, who's got great size, he's a 2-year starter. Reg, 21-4 record, and he's probably the most accurate passer in the NCAA. I think he completed 69.3% of his passes, and he had an 85-12 touchdown to interception ratio. So he's only 21 years old, which means there's a lot of upside. And I was very, very impressed with him in the losing effort in the championship game, in the semifinal game with Georgia. He made some plays with his legs. I think he's the most game ready guy. He's got all the tools. Bryce Young, a lot of people like him. He's number 1 or number 2 in all mock drafts. He's won the Heisman Trophy. I got a big question mark. He's 5'10" and 1/8 at the combine. There's only been 1 or 2 quarterbacks at that height that have had success, and one of them we're very familiar with, that was the quarterback in your New Orleans Saints team. But he checks all the other boxes, man. Everything except his height. And some teams are not going to be able to get over that. They really aren't. But he's got great arm strength, and he's accurate, and he's got great awareness. He's got all that. So me, I've got Stroud at 1 and Bryce Young at 2. And then you got the Texans. They need to change their narrative from the last 3 seasons. It's been musical chairs at the head coach position. It's been musical chairs at the quarterback position. They seem to have given up on Davis Mills. That's what it looks like. And they've added Case Keenum for his 3rd stint with the team. So he's not the answer. So they're probably taking a quarterback, and they're probably taking the one that Carolina doesn't take.
Right.
You agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think it's pretty secure that those 2 guys are going to be the top 2, and who knows what the order really is going to be. But I have Stroud as 1 in my rankings. But then you got the Arizona Cardinals. They've got a quarterback. They need a pass rusher. They got to replace J.J. Watt, in my opinion. And some people think that there could be a trade there, that Indianapolis might just move up 1 spot just to take a quarterback, so they stop somebody from jumping in front of them further back in the order. And that's where Anthony Richardson comes in. He's a fast-moving, high-rising guy right now here late. He is a great athletic guy. I mean, when I say he's got the least experience of all the prospects, but his numbers are out of this world. He's 6'4", 232 pounds, and he was the talk of the combine at his workout. If you watch his throwing workout at the combine, it was by far the best workout of this year's class. He's got the best physical skills, he's got the strongest arm, and he's probably the best athlete. He just doesn't have a whole lot of experience. He's thrown 24 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in his college career. That's it. But he's a high riser right now. He really is.
0.8 completion percentage, Mike, is a number that bothers me.
Yep.
That number bothers me. Okay, he's 6'4", 244 pounds, rocket arm, elite arm. Hadn't played a whole lot. 4.43 40, 40.5 vertical jump, 53.8. That ain't gonna get it done in Pee Wee football. No kind of football. That ain't gonna get it done. I like the measurables, and you're right, but I'm completely concerned about everybody, falling in love with the workout, falling in love with the pro day. He's the 2-3 year project in my mind to become NFL ready.
Yeah, there's some question marks, but as you know, Reg, quarterbacks get overdrafted. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the most overdrafted position in the NFL because everybody's looking for one. And Reg, this is not a deep draft at the quarterback position.
Correct.
You know, those three guys right there, and then you throw in Will Levis from Kentucky, and he's probably the most polarizing of the top five. You know, he started his college career at Penn State and transferred to Kentucky. He's big. He's got a strong arm. You know, he's built like Josh Allen.
Right.
But man, when you watch him play, you have some head-scratching throws. And I think a lot of it may have to do with he's worked with 4 different offensive coordinators in his career. He's a very smart guy. He's got a master's degree. He's already graduated, undergraduate, and his master's degree. But if you watch him, and there's some alarms, there's concerns about his consistency and his accuracy. There really is. And those are probably the top 4 for sure, Reg. But they're going to get overdrafted. Quarterbacks get overdrafted every single year because everybody's looking for one. And you mentioned Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. It's he had a great season prior to his ACL injury.
Right.
The other thing that's a little concerning is he's 25 years old already.
Right.
And that would be a big concern for me. But he's got the physical tools. He's 6'3", 217, and he's got a pedigree going back to high school where he won 2 state championships. But he's a guy that transferred, played at Virginia Tech, and then moved on to Tennessee. But he was having one heck of a season prior to his ACL injury, and that may knock him down a little bit. But again, quarterbacks get overdrafted.
Well, I think this. I think you're right. It's going to be a situation where, people are going to, and the other thing that we need to tell our audience, Mike, people panic on draft day. There's the run starts, quarterbacks start getting drafted. This guy gets, there's a trade stuff that happens that you don't anticipate, and then people start making mistakes because they panic. And then you take a guy because you got to get one, and there's pressure from the owner, and there's all this other stuff, and if you make a mistake in the top 5, you make a mistake and you draft the wrong guy who handles the ball every play, that will set your organization back 10, 12 years if you draft the wrong guy, specifically if you draft the wrong quarterback. And
well, Reg, guess what? It happens about 50% of the time in the NFL. It is not an exact science.
And I think
you're not gonna hit on quarterbacks, but every year they get overdrafted. If you look at the big board, the top 100 prospects, when the season started, you wouldn't see these 5 quarterbacks in the top 10. You'd see these 5 quarterbacks in the top 100 maybe, and some of them would be down in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Tell me where these 4 or 5 quarterbacks we were talking about, where they were maybe a year ago in the top 100, the big board we talk about all the time.
Well, Reggie, these guys weren't in the top 10. All 4 of them weren't. Maybe 1 or 2 of them were in the top 10. They were not. They might have been in the. It'd be great to look back and see, but nobody goes back and checks that. But they're gonna, they're probably down in the 20s or 30s. But don't forget, they're overdrafted. They are overdrafted, the most overdrafted position that there is. That if you take are you drafting for need, or are you drafting by what the board says? And that's a big conversation that teams have. But if you've got Tom Brady on your team, you're not taking a quarterback in the first round, even though if you had somebody that in the 20 years that he was there that was rated number 1 on the board, and if he was still there when you were picking, you weren't taking him.
Yeah.
That just wasn't happening. So, the issue is always going to be at the quarterback position. These guys get overdrafted because everybody's trying to get one.
Yeah.
And if you don't have one, you're gonna do everything in your power to get one and get one quick. You can't say we're gonna build our offensive line and then go get us a quarterback. You don't say we're gonna build us a defense and then go get a quarterback. What do you say in the NFL? I don't have a quarterback. I got to get one.
Right.
And I better get him quick, because if I don't, my ass is gonna be working somewhere else.
Correct. You're gonna be at Publix. You're gonna be working at Publix or FedEx.
Well, not Publix, but you'll be working somewhere else. But I don't think you'll be bagging groceries.
It's such a, as great as this game is, this part of it, to me, is the most intriguing. When I was a reporter, I wrote about all this kinds of stuff with regards to what goes into the draft, and the conversation we had earlier about, the GM, head coach system, which one works. But it also comes down to information. It's an information-driven league. And I'm just reading this thing here about C.J. Stroud. It says, he's because he played in Ryan Day's offense. It said playing in Coach Day's offense at Ohio State has prepared Stroud for the rigors of playing quarterback at the NFL level. Along with this accuracy, Stroud is able to process information quickly and anticipate his receivers running into open windows. Okay, well, that's good. Okay, I think you're right. And you said it earlier that C.J. Stroud, is probably the most NFL game day ready quarterback of the guys that we're talking about. But again, I think what happens sometimes is, and you probably know this better than me, Mike, is you're the most winningest coach in Falcons history. I think what happens is guys fall in love with guys. Guys come in, and according to scouts that I've talked to, they say Rich's got a really, really big personality. He looks like a linebacker. He's a really big guy. 6'4", 244. That is linebacker size, obviously. But you know what? I watched the combine and I watched him go through. I watched the throws. I mean, his throws were all over. I got an alert of someplace else. And I was watching him throw. He is a freak physically. He's a freak. But the 53.8. Okay, can you improve that? Yeah, but how long does it take to get it? 2 years? 3 years? By the time he gets there, you will be someplace else if you draft him. It's the problem.
Yeah, Reg, those are the questions that we can't answer right now. We don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah.
And as we've mentioned earlier, 50% of the first round draft picks don't work out. So we spend all this time, we spend all this money and effort trying to do a better job, but we haven't found a way to do a better job as a league. And I think that's one of the things that stands out. And I don't know the answer, but you would like to say that you would have a better hit rate than 50% with your draft picks, but that's just the way it is. I don't think you can do a deep enough dive because you're not putting the players in the, you're not able to put the players actually in the situation that they're going to be in when they're playing at the highest level of the sport, and that's the NFL.
Mike, there's so many factors that go into player success in the league. I mean, they've got the NFL's got the best of everything. You've got the best coaches, you've got the best scouts, you got the best talent evaluators, you've got the best coaches, you've got the best schemes, facilities, travel, hotel, all the things that go on to making this league the $30 billion a year business that it is. My question is this: you can get the draft right, you can get it right, and your board can say this, it matches up with all the things that you've done. You draft a guy, but the wrong player going to the wrong scheme, or he's in the wrong system. The guy didn't have success, and there's been plenty of guys who've been drafted who say if he's in a different scheme, can do well, it does well. But I think that's what you're saying. 50% of the guys, for whatever reason, don't make it. So if I'm a fan and I'm paying $3,000 a year for my tickets, I think I'm going to expect a little bit more of my head coach and my general manager to try to get a little bit better than 50%.
Absolutely, and it's something that I think we're well aware of because the statistics point to it, and we've got to do a better job. The teams have to do a better job, and the ones that do, and it's just 1 or 2% better are the teams that win. And I think we're seeing that everybody agrees that it's all about the quarterback right now in the NFL. And because, Reggie, no disrespect to the top 5 quarterbacks in this draft, it's dead average. You know, we'll look back, and we may look back and say, oh, we missed on this one. We got 4 Hall of Famers, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be a couple of these guys are going to be successful, and who knows which one it's going to be and at what level and how far they are going to go. But that's the unknown, and that's the thing that I think makes it so frustrating sometimes for people that are in the NFL and the fans. Is, you know, hey, it's a coin flip. You know, we're talking about the first round, not, hey, you know, hey, look, when you get in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th round, that's when the scouts really get involved in the draft.
Right.
So the first 3 rounds, coaches have had an opportunity to evaluate those guys, and they get over evaluated. Now, we may have a situation that we know that we're going to take probably a defensive lineman in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round. And so we may, as a coach, you may have focused on knowing that you weren't going to take a DT, for example, till, you know, 5th round. So you would really look and take a deep dive into the guys that were graded in the 5th, 6th, and 7th round. And those are things that happen as well.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, 2 weeks from today, we'll know, you know.
Oh, we'll know. And Reggie, I promise, I don't know what the over-under is, but I promise you they'll have it on DraftKings or you can go to Vegas. How many trades will there be in the first round? You know, we're talking about this, you know, the top 10 here, and we're not even talking about potential, trades. Mention that the Titans have been rumored about they may be interested in moving up and getting into that top 5 to get a quarterback.
Right.
On a dead at, you know, on a just an average quarterback class.
Right.
I don't know, but hey, you're going to be surprised at how many different moves there's going to be and how many trades are going to take place in the draft. And I imagine it's going to be an all-time record because it just continues to do that. And people are trading. It's like trading commodities. They're trading draft picks.
It'll be so interesting to watch the draft to see how it unfolds. I mean, because there's so much interest. There's with the draft, with the websites and the mock drafts, and who's doing what. And between now and 2 weeks from now, the speculation will be just rampant about who's going to do what based on what's going on. So I'll tell you what, we'll keep up. We'll be watching and we'll monitor it.
Hey, Reg, I'll give you a chance to win that dinner back. Okay.
All right.
You pick. Who's the first pick in the draft?
CJ Stroud.
We agree on that. So we'll have to just forget it. We both agree.
It'll be him. Yeah. Now, someone said that, someone said this the other day. They said, well, if the Titans move from 11 to try to get into the top 5, just because the new GM ran Carthon's a Florida graduate, they're saying, well, he likes the other guy. I said, you don't know that. You don't know. You don't just because a guy played football at Florida, went to Florida means he's gonna. I mean, that's stupid to say that. I'm interested to see what they do because they do need a quarterback. They need a quarterback because I don't think Tannehill is the answer. But this may not be the year to go in and try to get one. You may need to make.
It's not a deep draft, but quarterbacks get overdrafted.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
We're going to finish up with another topic. You're on with the PR man, the coach talking ball on the Ballfather Podcast presented by Sportskeeda. We'll finish up with something that took place in the college game a couple 3 years ago where players started to be able to benefit financially from their name, image, and likeness, the NIL. And it's gotten a lot of thread in the media. A lot of media have written about it. I saw someplace where someone suggested this week that the NIL needs to be regulated by Congress, and it's something that's being discussed among lobbyists in Washington D.C., saying that Congress should maybe step in add some rules and parameters and some rules as to how it can operate. That hasn't happened yet, so we'll keep an eye on that. There's enough stuff on Capitol Hill for those guys to do to fix. This is the last thing they need to be talking about on Capitol Hill.
I think so too, Reg. I think there's some more.
We
need to regulate it, but I don't know if Congress needs to get involved.
I don't know if we need to have the United States Congress regulate NIL. There's some other stuff that they need to be working on, but we don't need to get into that. Yeah. But Mike, you and I have talked offline about this whole thing with regards to name, image, and likeness. And you and I agree, it comes down to one thing. It all comes down to one thing, like it all comes, and every other thing comes down to cash. So give me your take. Just give our audience a little bit of your take on how you think this is going to shake out and how it affects college football over the next 5 to 10 years.
Well, Reg, I think I told you this offline. You know what NIL stands for, don't you? It's not name, image, and likeness. It's legal. Okay? Now it's legal. College football has been paying players forever.
That's good. Now it's legal.
So now it's legal. And this transfer portal, you hear the word, those two words, transfer portal. Well, that's opened up a can of worms, and it basically has now made college football like the NFL in that they have free agency. But the player gets to choose when he becomes a free agent. Yep. The transfer portal is set up for a one-time transfer rule where you don't have to sit out like the old NCAA rules. They said, we're going to allow a one-time transfer rule. And really, they even have it where you can actually do it 2 times if you can get a waiver. And what that says to me is, hey, you can get a waiver if you're not a very good player.
Right. Of course.
If I want to get rid of you, if I made a mistake and you're going to, and I'm going to let you transfer a second time, I'm going to let you transfer because you're not very good.
Right. Yeah.
So that's where I see it. But there's 2 windows right now, Reg. There's one right after the end of the season where players can decide and they go in, they declare that they're going in the transfer portal, and it's a mad dash. It's free agency. I mean, that's what it is. And there's a lot of teams that delve into it, and there's a lot of guys that change their helmet and their jersey. But guess what? There's a lot of guys that go into that don't change their helmet and change their jersey. But they talk about the ones that leave. And so right after the season, and then for some reason, they have a second window, and that's in May. Guess what? Right after spring ball. So, I don't know how you can function in a situation like that if you're a coach trying to build a program. Because after spring ball, if the guy's not happy, guess what he does? He's gone. I'm back in the portal.
Right.
Yeah, I'm back in the portal. So I really think that there's going to be some major changes in college football in the next 10 years, maybe even quicker than that, because there's going to be a shrinking of the teams that can compete at the top level. Right now, there's 129 Division I football teams. Reg, how many of those teams can win a national championship?
7 to 10.
Yeah, 7 to 10, right? And there's probably 2 or 3 that are going to be able to do it every year. And then out of the top 30, there's going to be 5 teams one year that's got a chance. There's going to be 4 teams the next year that are going to have a chance. And what I see there's going to be a breakaway. There's got to be. They're going to shrink it. Why is college football sharing, if there's only 5 to 10 teams that can win a national championship, why are they sharing all that money with 129 teams? It's not a very good business model, in my opinion, if you're one of those top teams. So eventually, I believe you're going to see the top level of college football be somewhere between 48 and 64 teams. And they're going to model it in terms of how they schedule. They're going to model it after the NFL. Why not? They know it works. If it's 48 teams, it's 1.5 of the league. You know, have divisions, have them compete, have playoffs. Because guess what? That
the
makes a whole shitload of money.
Right. The model
works.
It works.
You know, it works. And Reg, if they don't put some more regulations in, this is going to go through the roof. You're going to see the money being spent. It's just going to force teams to step out and universities step away. How many teams do you think, if there's no monetary, there's no salary cap, they can spend the money that they got? Well, I don't take this in the wrong way, but there's some schools that have a lot more resources than the others. A lot more resources. Those schools that don't have the resources, they can't compete. There's no way that they can compete.
Not like basketball.
No, it's not like basketball where one or two guys will make a team. You know, you get the right guy and put them around two or three other good, decent players, they can make a run. They can, and they can make a run in the tournament. It's a whole different dynamic.
Sure. They proved it this year.
Yeah, absolutely they did.
Yeah,
they did. So, it's interesting, and I don't know how they're going to figure it out, but it's going to contract. If you're going to play in the biggest, at the top level in college football, you better have a great fan base that has lots of money, because until they put a salary cap in, it's going to be mind-boggling. It's already mind-boggling what they're paying these players with the NIL deals that they have, that they've come out. And I know you've had other folks on that really understand how the NIL is set up, but at the end of the day, there's cash or money exchanging hands for the name, image, and likeness of the player is how I understand it. Well, and that money goes directly to them, not to the university.
Yeah. I've seen some stories of guys, some of the guys we've talked about. I don't want to get into their personal business. There's been some articles written about guys who play it. Some of the guys we've talked about, C.J. Stroud, Levis, some of those guys that have benefited from the NIL situation. It'll be interesting to see, because there'll be a lot of discussion. There'll be a lot of discussion with regards to, why not keep it the way it is? And I think the answer to that is there's too much money. And you're right. I mean, there's a bunch of schools that after they won't be able to compete for the national championship because they just don't have the resources that, say, Alabama and LSU does, and some of the schools on the West Coast. I mean, it's a complete discussion that's worth having. We don't have time to keep going over it, but you know what? We'll watch it and see what happens, and keep monitoring and bring the latest updates to our audience.
Yeah, and I think it's probably the area in sports right now where there's going to be the biggest change. It really is. We're not going to recognize college football in 5 to 10 years. I was going to ask the timeline. 5 to 10 years, we won't recognize it. Yes. The money that could come rushing in at certain schools, they're going to be able to buy, they're going to be able to go in and buy great players. And there is no salary cap, so there's no limit to it. So the rich are going to get richer if they buy the right players. That's interesting. Mike, you're still very connected in the coaching ranks. Do some of the coaches think this is going to be a good thing for college football, bad thing? Where are some of your college friends on this? How they see it checking out? Well, it's very difficult right now for continuity and to build a team, because each year you can have a completely different team. Right. And it's the traditional team building and the teamwork and all that, it gets thrown out the door. It really, does at a lot of schools. I heard the head coach there at Ole Miss, he talked about, we don't talk about, we're going to grow your son and we're going to, we're here to support, we're here to support him. Shit, we're here to win and win right now. If we don't win, we're going to get rid of him and we're going to, let's be real.
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin. Yeah. Lane came out and said, look, hey, we're not recruiting that way. That's not what we're telling them. We're not, hey, they're going to be here for a year, They're going to be here for 2 years. And that goes on already a little bit where guys, the really good players, they get to, they get an opportunity to leave after their second season.
Yeah.
And it's just going to, it's going to topple it. And then you've got the Proposition 48 or the things that happen with that stuff in terms of gender equality and all that kind of stuff, where you got to have the same number, the same number of men's sports and women's sports. Title IX, excuse me. Title IX. And that's going to open up a whole can of worms. What if these football teams can leave and not be part of the NCAA? Do they does that change the way Title IX is?
That will get regulated by Congress, okay? Because it already is. That already was regulated.
Well, it is right now, but if the sport leaves and goes, it's no longer part of the NCAA, could that make the Title IX situation easier, because there's no sport on the women's side that has the number of participants as football on the men's side. When you talk about basketball, there's a men's basketball team, there's a women's basketball team. You talk about softball, baseball, swimming, tennis, soccer. There's both men's and women's. There's not women playing football. So who knows where it's going to end up? But I know this: there's lots of people making lots of money with NIL, and I think you're going to start seeing some type of rules that will make it more regulated, because right now it's not regulated at all. And there's agents, and I don't know if these people are representing the player, or if they're representing the school. I know it's changed that, and it's going to change the way an NCAA school recruits. You're going to have a department just like the pro department and then the college department in the NFL. You got college scouts and you got pro scouts. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have somebody watching the rest of the college football, because those guys on other teams are going to be available to become a member of your team. And if they're good, you want them. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to leave it there. We're going to keep watching, keep an eye on this NIL thing. My buddy who was on last week was saying some of the same stuff that you're saying. He thinks it's going to take a little bit longer because of tradition. He said it's going to be more of a 7 to 12 year window. But I think you're right. The money is going to be so big, it'll be like a tsunami tidal wave. And, when you got cash involved, things can happen very, 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 very quickly. I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out my lady LSU Tigers, who were coached by Kim Mulkey with their national championship win. Kim Mulkey was obviously won 3 national championships at Baylor. Kim Mulkey played at Louisiana Tech when I was in school, going to ULM, and she was a really good player and turned into a really, really good coach. She said something really interesting after they beat who they beat. They beat Iowa for the national championship the other day. She said something really interesting. They asked her, how did you come to Louisiana and take over? Obviously LSU is a flagship school in my home state. She said, how did you take over a 9-win team and turn them into national champions in 2 years? I thought her answer was perfect. She said, you can't be afraid to go out and get players with personalities. And she goes, when I played, there were girls that I played with who were personalities, who had ledge, who were tough. And she goes, I've never been afraid to go out and coach people with personalities. Remind me of you. You coached Ray Lewis. You on a team with Shannon Sharp. You on a team with Peter Bulwer. Some of those Ravens guys that you coached, Tony Saragusa. Some of those guys had personalities. Reminded me of you when you said that.
Well, personality goes a long way in not only sports, but it goes a long way in business. It goes a long way in so many different realms of your life. And big personalities are fun to be around. Yeah. Big personalities bring out the best in other people. That's how I approach it.
I completely thought about you because you and I have talked about some of the guys, you coached and you were around, and your Ravens, the team that you were at staff of the Ravens in 2009 was one of the best teams ever as far as players. Coach Billick, won the championship. The quarterback Dilfer. You were around some personalities. That when she said that reminded me of you. So listen, we'll keep watching this draft. Next week will be a week. We'll be a week out. We'll keep watching, see what goes on with the quarterback, see who's visiting where, see what lies people are telling about, who's going to draft where. I bet you this. I'll bet you the number. I'll tell you what. We'll do this bet next week. We'll bet how many trades are going to take place in the 2023 draft. In that for the first round, how many trades? I'll bet it's double-digit numbers. We'll take.
I'll have to do some research before I come up with that number, but we'll do it. We'll see it. Yep.
All right. Look.
All right, man. Good talking. And
I'm gonna call you on the phone a little bit. Let's. I got something else I got to talk to you about. But let's. We'll pick it up. We'll do it next week.
Gotcha.
All right, man. Thanks.